It's hard not to be emotional today. Welcome to the chat, Beans. Woo. We're going to get the stream fired up. We're going to get the word out. And we are going to get started on this Bonnet Chronicles. Honestly speaking, I don't know anybody alive who didn't see the testimony of Miss Shay and Miss Ruby. We're going to get to that today as well. But there's just so much to talk about. And honestly speaking, it's hard not to be emotional from it. I honestly do not blame people. But what I want people to do is focus, channel all the emotions you have to do the right thing, because what happened to them shouldn't have happened. And we are going to break that down. But it is such a microcosm of things that are constantly happening in our country, things that have historically happened in our country that we still keep trying to downplay. So I definitely wanted to open up with Juneteenth. And though some people still probably don't even understand what it is. I listened to Greg explaining it to his parents the other day because they were like, the banks aren't going to be open. What's this Juneteenth thing? And honestly speaking, I'm conflicted on it. I seen an amazing video from Miss Ruby who walked the walk. She's in her 90s. She shouldn't have to be walking anywhere. But she's out there putting herself out there because she wants people to understand where we come from. And the push for this to be a national holiday has always been bittersweet for me because even though I grew up in New York City, my family's from Texas, especially my grandfather, Billy Walker Sr. He is Texas born and bred. So knowing what Juneteenth was felt like one of those if you knew, you knew type things. And everybody just assumed we were having just a family barbecue when we did those. And now that it's mainstream, I worry about it becoming corrupted. I worry about people profiting off of something that we still haven't seen generational reparations for. So I noticed a lot of Black people, especially, have these feelings about this. And I want you to know you're not alone. It's very conflicting for me. While on the real side of having it be a national holiday, it should be a good thing. Most people who should benefit from it being a holiday and having the time off to reflect and enjoy being here with their family couldn't take the time off, couldn't afford to do that. And those who could are not being catered to for the right reasons. Then you have literal white companies profiteering off of Juneteenth imagery, and I don't know. It is hard not to be conflicted for me on this. I honestly want people to understand what Juneteenth is about. We have so many people that scream about CRT because they feel like learning anything about our country's history will make them feel shame to be white. It's not about shaming you on being white. It's about the realities of what my people went through. It's about the realities of my ancestors who it wasn't that long ago in chains. It's about celebrating the day that we finally found out that, yes, we are free. We are able to declare ourselves as human beings. And some of you don't understand that because you've never had your humanity on the line, and it shows. And we're going to talk about that tonight because even after what happened during this January 6th committee, even after you've seen the gripping testimony of both Lady Shay and Lady Ruby talking about what they went through, the threats to their lives and purpose, we still have supposed allies talking about needing to be messaged to. So I really want to take the time today to pick apart some of the things I've seen in the need for messaging, in the blatant misogynoir, because it's not just misogyny. It is blatant misogynoir for VP Harris that I need to call out as well. But I wanted to open up with Juneteenth because it all ties in. Who this was put for is not who's being represented. And it feels like Juneteenth was done to try to make white people feel better about the things that their ancestors did to my ancestors. And I'm not okay with that. Yeah, I want to celebrate being able to call myself a human. But when my rights are constantly under threat, It's hard to get in the barbecuing and gathering spirit. I am worried because there are so many people with platforms that's utilizing Juneteenth in the wrong ways. You got assholes like Steve King here. Oh, let me highlight his what the actual fuck. Talking about, I spent Juneteenth all day in the hot sun pulling weeds. No, he didn't. Wondering, thinking about what it would have been like to been a slave. We'll get to that in just a minute. I also thought what it would be like to be an aborted baby, which maybe his mom should have. Better than being a live bigot. And welcome to the chat, Respect. I got to see the sunrise and sunset, and it's like, it's all about control with these fuckers. But what's worse is the fact that he is equating working in his garden to slavery. My family picked cotton. My family tilled fields. They birthed babies and they nursemaided for white plantation owners. They were raped and fucking abused. It was not just planting and gardening. It was back-breaking labor, building buildings, working jobs that put their lives in danger and utilizing their babies as things as gator bait in places like Florida and Louisiana. The horrors of what happened to our ancestors must be taught. Because assholes like Steve King, who I am pretty clear doesn't really care about the accuracy of slavery, because his people benefited the most from owning my people. He doesn't want to touch upon why slavery had to be ended. The dehumanization that people would love to drag us back to is lucrative for men like him. But this is why I am conflicted about Juneteenth. Because assholes like this, and Dr. Oz, and so many other GOPers who would gleefully sign up to strip our freedoms again, say shit like this. It takes all meaning away when something that was ours becomes a national thing. I'm sorry, I'm just not willing to share it. It is not for everybody. And not everybody should be celebrating this day because it wasn't for you. Some of you are the fucking very reason why we had to be like this. And I know for some, you don't understand the conflict because you're used to the world catering to you. You're used to the world giving you what you want. So you don't like it when you feel called out. And I'm sorry, I'm not here for your feelings. Juneteenth is a very personal holiday for us. For those of us who are literally descendants of the people that you brought here over ships that actually survived that hard journey and grew up with the traumas of being nothing but cattle, less than cattle in some instances. You just don't understand the horrors of that. And that we are still fighting to just be and exist. And you just want to give us a national holiday and a pat on the head like it's enough. And it's not. That's my problem with Juneteenth. It's not enough. It will never be enough to reflect and rectify this country's greatest sin. Yet people want these platitudes instead of actual progress that can help our communities. And while I give so much respect to Miss Ruby, and I understand where her heart is in this, and that is why I was so conflicted with even daring to come out against this national holiday. I feel like assholes like Steve King and other white people who just want to give us a pat on the head and tell us to stop making them feel anything about the past, because for them, shame is the worst emotion they can be put through. Instead of looking towards ways to help my community flourish and grow and utilize what happened in ways to teach that we should never go backwards, y'all would rather close your eyes and ears to it. Y'all will let your relatives scream about CRT in one breath, but talk about how the Dems aren't messaging things. And we are going to get to that right now because that shit has me so heated today. This lady, which I'm going to bring up her nonsense right now, Had me heated all day yesterday, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna wait. I've got this Bonnet Chronicles, and I realized that I didn't put my bonnet on. So give me just a second, y'all, to rectify this situation. Can't have my brand without my brand stuff. Good Lord, I am just between being stunned by Miss Ruby and Miss Shay's testimony. It has just been a shell shock day for me, so bear with me on this, y'all. We started off the Bonnet Chronicles sans bonnet. It's just the way it is. Let me get this lady's nonsense up in Adam though. Because she is, like I said, part of the problem. The Republicans' messaging is tight, she says. I hate that I even have to sit through this again because my blood pressure's raising. What bothers me about white women like politics girls is she stokes the bullshit. The bullshit and the anger and crap. I don't know if y'all even seen that video now because I had that stupid ass Steve King thing. It just stokes the same bullshit and ideals that most white people have. That you need messaging for yourself. That you need catering. So I'll have this on in the background again while I go over what's wrong with her thing. Yes, while I would love to live in the kind of society where we didn't need millions of dollars raised to run campaigns, we live in a society where we need money. That's just a reality. Jamie Harrison came from a DNC that was full on hemorrhaging funds. I remember back in 2015 when Hillary had to step in, literally, because of the way funds were being mismanaged by the DNC. So, yes, it is a big business to run this thing for politics. And bragging about the amount of money brought in helps people realize, yes, I need to give money to it. Now, while some people say, yeah, I kind of agree with some of her messaging about, they're not getting their stuff in line. What more does anybody who isn't a Republican need? They are literally attacking our rights to vote, our rights to choose, our rights to exist if we are LGBTQ+. What more messaging do you need unless you're a privileged asshole like this one who I guess she feels like she won't be targeted. But let me tell you, in the GOP thing, you would be a brood mare. And if you can't have a baby, then you will be relegated to the help. What troubles me about the people that even want to say that this woman has a point to her messaging is the fact that we have all survived Trump. I don't care how good you think you might have had it under him. We all know the truth of that. It was hell on earth. Between what happened with COVID and all the stuff that was happening despite it. The stabilization here and abroad. We cannot afford to be dragged backwards, and we have so many people trying, and it's in the messaging. They keep attacking our current administration for not being flashy enough. But if they were too flashy, then they'd be showing off. There's no fucking way to do it but to just do the work. And I would rather have a competent administration that gets the work done than what we had less than 2 years ago. And we are only barely in the second swing of this administration's run. And we already have people predicted for 2024 trying to bring the reformist policies of Bush, Cheney, and Bowder, whoever. And it's like Cheney still falls in line with the people who want to strip my rights, the people who think Juneteenth is enough when they're literally letting us die in food deserts, letting the rural rotted brains of their constituents buy guns and make things miserable for people just trying to go to school and live their best lives. So no, we are not going to have a ticket where Cheney has a viable chance as long as I got breath in my fucking body. But these are the games so many people are playing, and I've seen so much amplification of bullshit this week. It's not even funny. It's only fucking Tuesday. Bill Crystal talking about, we really should think about them for 2024. I've already thought about it, and I'm voting for Biden-Harris. I thought about it, and if Joe Biden decided today that he was done, there are more viable Democratic candidates, but I can't focus on 2024. That shit is a distraction. And I can't believe so many of you haven't realized that by now. Just how easy that whole idea of, we got to think about 2024. No, we got to think about 2022's midterms. We have so many viable offices on the line, whether it's your governor, whether it's senators, which we really do need a majority, y'all, an actual solid majority that you can help us get, whether it is your Secretary of State, which I'd like to remind people from Georgia, the whole reason why Brian Kemp is your governor is because he was also Secretary of State and he fucking cheated. And they were still going to cheat like that for Donald Trump. If you've learned anything from these January 6th hearings, what happened to Miss Ruby and her daughter Shay made you angry, you should know that they plan to continue this. They plan to try to be smarter about it by getting these positions legally, getting elected to them, and making sure that they can hand the national election over to whoever they fucking want. And we have to be the front against this. So when I see white ladies like that talking about, the DNC isn't messaging to me, I see what you're saying. And I call bullshit. What more messaging? Why do you need constant censoring and catering to do the right fucking thing? It is infuriating to me at this point in my life. Having been told since I was a little girl, since my grandmother looked me in the eye when I was younger, took me to an elementary school with her to vote. And I asked her, because I was a kid, you understand why your grandmother's standing around a box filling out a ballot? So 5-year-old 10 is like, Granny, why am I here? Why are we doing this? Why is this important? And she looked me dead in the eye, didn't care how young I was, because they don't want us to. And they will take this from you if you don't do it. And even then, it stuck with me. And that's why I take my kid to vote. It is why, because now with COVID, I made sure that I was on an absentee ballot, but if they fuck that up, because I'm still waiting to get clearance for that, I will be down the road in August to cast my ballot. You will get my vote because it's that important to me. I'm 3 times vaxxed, boosted. I will make sure my vote gets tallied because it matters. Because there are people out there that literally will send thugs trying to stop us from enacting our rights because they know the power of that. And then you've got these so-called allies saying, the messaging isn't enough. What more messaging? They literally are drafting ideologies where they could separate themselves. And some of you have been on some bullshit about, let Texas succeed. Like there aren't Texas people right now suffering under the GOP. Like Uvalde didn't just happen. These motherfuckers who legitimately allow babies to fucking die on their watch. The more you find out about the Uvalde PD, the more heartbreaking it is. The cowards that literally stood there for over an hour while children were being murdered. And the more we find out, the more they try to cover up, the worse it is. You tried for years to convince us that the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. These were supposed to be the good guys. And all I seen was a bunch of cowards that allowed a bunch of children to die unnecessarily, along with their educators. And now you want to push things like we should train teachers because there are a lot of GOPs who are fully invested on keeping us fearful and armed and fucking chaotic instead of passing sensible measures to keep these guns out of the hands of overly radicalized, ultra insensitive assholes. I am tired of hearing about messaging. We don't need a stronger message than lives are lost when we are apathetic. Lives are lost when we can't vote in legislators who understand what dehumanization does, what racism does. You talk about the other side's messaging is tight, even though it's all lies. You know it's lies, so why do you need that? We're supposed to be the more intelligent party. We're supposed to be the people that understand diversity, but right, Dems? Y'all are suffocating us with your selfishness. And some of you don't want to hear that, as you ignore the very solvable issues. They're not targeting you with voter suppression. They're not gerrymandering your districts. When you go to the polling centers, most will assume that you're working for the other side. You could be full-on covert agents for democracy, but you refuse because you're not being catered to. You can't be motivated off your couch if you're a press brat. It is exhausting trying to fight for what I know is the right thing to do, because I've always knew that was the right thing to do, because my rights are always on the line, versus somebody who thinks they're going to be all right no matter who's in charge and needs constant messaging that centers your needs. It is fucking exhausting. How can you look people in the face after what you've witnessed from Miss Ruby and Miss Shay? Despite this country constantly shitting on us. Despite this country constantly telling us we're not good enough. We do our best to protect this democracy. We do our best to protect everybody's rights and freedoms. And we get shit on by the people who don't have those hurdles. You are literally on the easy button mode of the society. And you still need to be motivated. You still need messaging catered to you. It's tiring. Exactly. That drives me nuts too. And I got into it with some white women over that. I know they don't like my stance on that. But you wouldn't have to do these protests. You wouldn't have to knit these hats if you did the right thing in the first fucking place. Going down to D.C. was not for me. I wasn't taking a day off. I was working back then. Yeah, I was pissed about Trump's supposed win. I felt like Hillary Clinton was done dirty, and she had one of the best messages. Stronger together. She had the best qualifications, and I can fucking guarantee you, we wouldn't have half the messes that we had from 2016 to 2021. But instead, y'all needed the messaging, and you let a fucking carnival barker assume the role of the highest position of leadership in our land, and we fucking paid for it. So I'm really sick and tired of hearing about messaging, because messaging for who? Every time we center your feelings, we lose out. And I am fucking sick of you needing better messaging than the other side of full-on radicalized in this weird-ass pseudo-Christianic theocracy bullshit. They only want women to be obedient, young, and able to pop out more babies for them. They want men to be toxic and geared towards their version of masculinity, even if it causes anxiety and crippling mental issues. They don't care. And all for some weird ass promise for some magical sky daddy to take you into some kingdom when you're dead. None of this shit makes sense, and I write fiction for a fucking living. Yet we see the issues and ways that we can get around these issues, and people still refuse to turn out. That's why fucking Grimace is running in Pennsylvania off memes. I hate to attack Fetterman again because we need the senator seat. We need it. I'm not even going to play around with this. But what bothers me about fucking Fetterman still is Oz, as odious as he is, sitting in black church, putting out the word that I will be the celebrity you need, because sadly, stunts are a power move. And this man, who could literally be what we need to keep the majority or make a solid majority, are sitting there doing memes on Twitter, and it's like, I don't like this current time period. I don't understand why this is a thing. But what we have to do is elect guys like that and then work towards making sure he does his job, because the moment Fetterman fucks up, because I know he's gonna, we have to be on him. And I blame the turnout during the primaries too, Respect. The numbers don't lie. People aren't taking this serious. They think it's a joke. They think, oh, it's not going to matter until your fucking rights are on the line. It's not going to matter until you literally have the GOP running your state into the fucking ground. Y'all want to mock Texas from your so-called safe blue state. No state is safe. I am sitting here in Michigan. There are still 10 fuckers gunning for the governorship that would run us into the ground if they had the chance. We have a wackadoo running for Secretary of State who is a full-on black MAGA, who I didn't even realize, because I would never vote for her. But she has put out enough conspiracy theories that John Oliver literally featured her on Last Week Tonight. That is how bad it is. We cannot sleep on it. There is no fucking safe space in this country from that ideology, because we are sandwiched between the people who are full-on indoctrinated by right-wing ideology and the people who think they would be safe even if it's in play. The so-called allies who would rather parachute in anytime we mention white people to say, not all, and get a fucking pat on their head for doing bare minimum. Or worse yet, try to act like we're more racist for talking about racism. Y'all have been on some shit all week with that. And I'm sorry, I don't ascribe to your way of thinking. We have to shine a light on this shit. Why do you still need messaging? Women's rights are on the line. You've seen what happened when Mitch McConnell and Trump made their power play. Our fucking Supreme Court is now slanted in the favor of idiot ideology. You see what happens when you let an idiot ideology run our country for 4 years. Death and destruction. Nothing but chaos. So what more messaging do you need? Stabilization isn't always going to be loud. Getting the work done means doing just that. It's not in your face. It's in their office. Drafting legislation, negotiating with countries, which what drives me nuts about her statement about we need to focus on domesticated issues. All of those are homegrown by white people. It's white people going to school boards protesting and book banning. It's not black people. It's white people who are constantly decrying CRT and wanting things their way or the highway. And while I would love to act like what's going on in the Ukraine won't affect us, it does. And it's important. And we can't be selfish in this situation. Because Putin is literally waging a war to starve out countries like Africa, which I don't know about you, but just because I don't feel a direct connection because I haven't traced my ancestry fully yet, doesn't mean I'm not connected to that continent. It doesn't mean I want to see people suffering and starving because of it. Because you got to think beyond yourself in politics. And a lot of you allies don't. And I know it's hard to be read like this for some, but you need to. Because saying that the messaging isn't enough. saying that thinking beyond our country isn't enough. Do you even understand what the president has to do? Do you understand that he is not just working for this country, that he has to negotiate with other world leaders? And that crisis that Putin caused was a direct result of the idiot that you thought weren't going to do no harm. Everything Putin felt emboldened to do was sanctioned by 45. And that is because y'all's demographic wholeheartedly thought, what could the harm? Between those who sat home because what could the harm? Between those who wrote Harambe because what is the harm? We've seen the harm and we are still feeling the effects of the harm. So that is why we have to have a president that understands both the domestic stuff, which Joe Biden does, and the abroad stuff. Good, John B. Welcome to the chat. I feel like, especially respect, so many people act like calling them out is the worst thing in the world. Saying that you need to think beyond yourself. That even if what we do helps these diehard MAGAs, that is the point. We should all have better access to housing, better access to healthcare, better access to a healthier environment. We should have legislators who see us as humans and want to protect our rights. And not just the rights of a fetus, because we women are more than just our ability to give birth. And like I said, as somebody who has both survived sexual assault and who has being blessed with being a mom, I understand the complexities of not wanting to ever be in a situation where I would have to choose to have such a procedure done, but wanting the freedom for it to be my fucking business if I did. I have never, thank God, had to have that happen. Even after my assault, I was fortunate a baby was not the product of it. But I have always been honest that if that had been the result, there's no way I would have been able to carry that kid. And I've had dear friends who did do that, raise them even. More power to them. It is hard for me to even function some days when it gets close to the anniversary of what happened to me, because I don't know whether people understand that, but when you survive such assault, you are condemned to a life sentence. You might not think about it all the time as you get older, because what happened to me happened when I was fucking underage. But you get little tidbits as it gets closer to the day. And it's like your throat closes up because you start to remember things that you really put to the back of your mind. And if the GOP have their way, what happened to me wouldn't be enough to not force me to have a child with that person, because they only see women as broodmares. They only see us, our whole stock and value in life is pushing out life that they don't even want to care for. And it's a dangerous slope of stupidity that we have sanctioned for far too long. The people who didn't want to think about politics until they had to, now wanting to scream about messaging. What more messaging do you need than these GOPers are acting like fucking thugs that don't want to operate on any sense of reality, want to take everything good and twist it in the name of God, and you're going to call them messaging tight while saying in the same breath that it's lies? Why do you need the stunts? I don't understand it. Why do you need any more messaging than vote? Because our lives depend on it. And then you get mad at the way they fundraise. Oh, the DNC they're raking in all that money while everybody's struggling. And trust me, I understand about being team broke ass. I'll be 100% with y'all. I haven't donated to a campaign in almost 2 years now. I don't have it. Every extra cent I've made goes to keeping a roof over kiddo, mine, and Greg's head. Even though things have gotten a bit better in our household, we put out the book, we are doing our thing. Like every other American, I am doing everything I can to not be homeless. It is a reality. I don't say that for a handout. I say that because it is the real. And it doesn't stop me from voting. It doesn't stop me from hoping to have legislators that will put in policies that will help my state, because when the state's helped out, we're helped out. That's the reality of the situation. I have never lived life on, I need this now. Things need to be catered to me. One of the things I seen earlier today, talking about, oh, this community's wasting our time. Everybody should just be in handcuffs. Justice system doesn't work like a Law and Order episode. We are seeing the realities of what happened on January 6th, not just for the people who probably should be watching and aren't, but to remind you of what happens when you sit home, when you don't elect people who want to protect our democracy, when your Secretary of State will get up to shenanigans if you don't elect proper people. It is dangerous when we stay home, when we are constantly amplifying people who say they need to be messaged to. That is the dangers of apathy. All Trump needed was less people like Miss Ruby and more people like Kemp, who is still in control of the state of Georgia and running shit into the ground. Welcome to the chat, Kilky Cat. Thank you for the resubscribe. What troubles me about everything that's currently going on in politics, good, bad, and in between, is how self-inflicted it is. How many people still need stunts, talking about things like Katie Porter 2024. What has fucking Katie Porter literally done besides her whiteboard antics on BuzzFeed? She hasn't drafted any legislative stuff. Every time I've heard about her, she's been causing trouble for people like Maxine Waters, who actually drafts and has legislation passed to help people. Some of you will put up with fucking performative art politics over actual legislators, and you're a part of the problem. We have people like Lauren Underwood, who not only walks the walk but talks the talk. She's not constantly on Twitter, but when she is, she's letting you know, hey, I just got this legislation passed. That is who you should be amplifying. Yet no, I'm seeing Porter 2024 from who? She ain't gonna vote for me. Because like I said, we have a viable combination in Biden-Harris. And even if Joe Biden has said today, I'm not willing to put myself on the line again, which I doubt he is. He's already said his hat's ready for 2024. He has a viable partner in Kamala Harris. And don't think I haven't noticed the rise in white women especially. Y'all are not our sisters in this, who have been speaking out against, well, she hasn't really won a hard race. Sir, ma'am, she won senator in California, being one of the few black women senators historically to win a fucking large state. Everything she does with care and empathy and does the fucking work. The fact that people are decrying her abilities to lead without even meeting her, without even getting the opportunity to see the amount of passion and care that she gives to this job is what's infuriating. But the fact that it's being floated around both standard media and social media is enraging, because it's effectively going to nullify voter turnout if we let it. And it has to stop. This misogynoir is not new. We watched it as misogyny against Hillary Clinton. And if you don't think that shit's effective, if you don't think stuff like that whole big October drop of what's that idiot's name that I try not to think about him, Manafort and others, all of these assholes that worked consecutively against us in 2016 can't redux in 2024. You're a part of the problem. And we see how you say things like the K-Hive like it's a slur, because you can't say what you really want to say, uppity Negroes or the N-word. You don't like that we have somebody that not only can do the work, but is smart enough to lead, because you don't want that glass ceiling fully shattered. You think patting us on the head and giving us crumbs is enough, but no. And we are not going to always argue against legitimate criticisms, because that was my one thing against anybody openly K-Hive. We need to pick our battles. There's so much bad launched at VP Harris. It's been like that since she threw her hat in the ring originally. People wanting to bring up her past. People wanting to bring up her relationship. People wanting to bring up her race. So we have to be smart in the battles we pick, but I'm realistic enough to know that they're battles. This is why you have people like Jennifer and other press brats talking about, oh, we need to look at 2024 as a way of reforming GOP. No, we don't. The GOP has shown us who they are. They get no more chances. Stop trying to make them reform. They will forever be the party of Trump. They let his taint all over them, and now they have his stank. Forever, as far as I'm concerned. And especially after listening to the testimony today. And you want us to behave like what? Those indoctrinated thugs? Seriously? It is so frustrating at this point. But it's one of many frustrating things. I need to remind people that another reason why Homegirl's thing won't work. Because people forget that there are Americans abroad right now. Brittany Griner. I know that Little Miss Politics says, why are we worrying about stuff abroad? This woman has been a hostage. They say prisoner, but no, she's a literal hostage of the Russian government for months now. I seen a puff piece the other day about how her wife couldn't talk to her on her birthday, and it's like, why is she still being held? And I know that the president has gone on the record to say he regrets what happened, but we need to do everything in our power to bring Brittany home. It's shameful that she is still over there, that she is being used as a pawn by that cancer-ridden wannabe Napoleon. And that our people are always the ones that are left suffering when shit like this happens. You need any more messaging? We need people who can effectively negotiate bringing Brittany home. She needs to be home. She should not be over there. Some of you don't care, though, because it ain't your kin. Some of you don't care because she don't look like you. Some of you don't care, oh, she's a celebrity. She is literally in a fucking gulag right now. She should be home. This is why it's important who represents us. This is why your state elections matter. And too many of you want to fucking play the game of why any messaging that caters to me. Because your lives aren't in fucking danger constantly. It's exhausting. The amount of stuff going on feels like it's never ending and you don't get a break from the constant bad. But instead of taking that bad and going, I'm not going to do anything about it, I'm upset. It should motivate you to want better for yourself and all of us. And even if you're one of the few that still felt untouched by all the bad of the last few years, still felt protected by your shield of whatever social privilege, you have to be smart enough at this point to realize that when they have control of stuff, it is bad for you all out. And we all feel the fallout when they're in charge. Look at Texas. Look at the fucking constant environmental issues that they have. The grid not working. People who are in charge is spraying away when shit don't work. They want to make sure that their power company buddies are well compensated, but yous will suffer for it. And you have viable people like Beto running. They just need more messaging. And once again, bringing up Georgia, Kemp is a fucking cancer to use. And you have people like Stacey Abrams, people like Reverend Warnock, who want to do better for your state. What more messaging do you need? And Florida with Death Santis, come on now. Come on. Man's attacking Disney. He's attacking your right to be if you're LGBTQ. He wants to yell CRT when, sir, you are the fucking product of every bad of our history. I'm just so sick of hearing about how we need more messaging when the other side's message is clear. If you're not a straight white Christian male, you're not worthy in their eyes. So why are we letting these fuckers lead our country into the ground? Why are we letting them on a state by state basis control the narrative of who gets to be and who gets to exist in peace? This is on us. This is not just the right wing following the line thing, because they're literally dying off the COVID. This is on us who are not the constant targets of voter restrictions and suppression tactics. And like I said, some of you will jump right in front of us when we're talking about race to say, oh no, not me, not all, and get in your feels because you feel targeted when we talk about your kinfolk. And instead of taking that anger at them, which that's where it should be, no, you direct it at us for not giving you kudos for bare minimum, and I'm not here for that. If you don't vote, then I got nothing for you. Because at this juncture in our society, it really comes down to that simple act. And that's why they don't want you to do it. That's why they don't want you to believe. That's why they do these fucking TikToks where they talk about the messaging to give you that, well, I just stayed home. Didn't matter anyway. The Dems weren't talking to me attitude. That same energy is turned around for you to protest as a bunch of lives are lost again to either injustice or just random acts of white violence. It's infuriating to me how many things we could prevent if you would do your fucking bare minimum and just vote. It is exhausting in this day and age. How many people act like it doesn't matter until it comes to your doorstep? And it shouldn't have to get to a bad place for you to realize what your civic duty means. And some of you really show that you don't even understand the bare minimums of politics. Because you think, oh, I elected a president, that's all I need to do. It doesn't matter if my governor is really enacting statewide policies that harm us. Joe Biden's my new president daddy. He's supposed to handle everything. That's not how politics work. And your state and local legislators, if they look like that one lady, Karamo, as she's called here in Michigan, we could have some serious issues. The only thing that stopped Trump's ridiculous attempt at a coup was enough people like Miss Ruby and Mrs Shay working in our electoral process. But do you think they haven't felt exhausted? And you don't think the GOP is thinking, how can we replace these people so that when we want to do this again, we can? This is why we need you supposed allies to be on the ball and paying attention instead of just bitching on Twitter about messaging. But heaven forbid we call you out on this. We're the bad guys for shining the light on your selfishness. It's exhausting, y'all. And it gets us nowhere when all you talk about is needing to be talked to. Do your fucking part. Especially those of you who aren't being suppressed. Do your part and cast the ballot. Turn out in ways that even if they try to cheat, they can't get around. We need you. Y'all bitch about feeling not seen. That was one of the things these white women were bugging me and others about a few weeks back when we were talking about the death of Miss America. Y'all parachuted in to a thread where we were commiserating, trying to feel like we were enough, trying to wrap our heads around this mentality of society, eating you alive to where you can't take it anymore. And white women wanted to lament how black women have this and black women have that. And, we feel bad enough. And it's like, do you though? Because you still have the societal privilege to act like it doesn't matter to you who's in office. Some of us have never had that luxury. We vote like our lives are on the line because they do matter. And they are on the line. And so are your rights. You've been socially conditioned to believe that it doesn't matter until it happens to you. And that is a problem that we cannot afford to ignore anymore. The social conditioning to be anti-political until it directly affects you. The social conditioning to believe that politics needs to cater to you and be customized to your needs and your needs only. The messaging issue that really isn't an issue because we've literally seen what happens when we let incompetence and the GOP especially be in charge. This is not a game. And I shouldn't have to beg you, but like I said, I will do every fucking Bonnet Chronicles I have until the midterms and beyond, because we have to be politically invested to get better. And we have to have representatives that are willing to do the job, not just have a D by their name or an I, and definitely not an R. Vet your candidates. Make sure they don't just talk the talk. Make sure they're willing to put in the legislative work, willing to vote, and not just grandstand to make a name for themselves. Make sure their funds are in order too. I know it's hard. And I don't want to shit on anybody who struggled. I struggle. Yous have all struggled. I know it can be hard to keep a roof over your head, food in your family's bellies, and everything else. But there are some people that really misappropriate their funds. And they don't need to be elected officials. They need to learn how to budget and not show off. I vet everybody now. Because if they can't keep their fucking numbers right, and they need to flex and show off, they are not in politics for the right reason. We have to be wary of those who stunt for power. Because they're not stunting for the better of all of us. They're stunting to fill their own coffers. And we have to be wary of those who do that. And I know it seems like it's hard. You don't want to think it's a big condition not to think politics is tough. Politics is not hard. Listen to what somebody's saying. Figure out if they're on the up and up and vote for them. It really is that simplistic. And exactly, respect. AOC and the squad are prime examples of that. Omar with her questionable campaign contributions to her husband. Tlaib as well. That's why her ass is being primaried here. And I am voting against her. For a little doddering white woman that I didn't think I was even going to pay attention to. I watched some of her YouTube videos and I was like, no at first. But the woman that I was originally going to back has very severe bad mismanagement issues with her money. And I'm sorry. As much as I want to support fellow sister girls, I'm not about to put my hat into the backing of somebody who can't keep their funds in line. And then going to preach about how, no. We got to be smarter. Michigan is going through some things. We have right-wingers who are crazily trying to push that whole, they're going to come after your guns, they're coming after this. And then we have legislation that has brought legalized weed here, which is bringing in funds. We have ways to rebuild our communities and communities that need rebuilding that are still being ignored. And we need to get legislators that not only aren't going to ignore them, but can allocate these funds in a proper manner. This is why politics is serious and why I get so upset that people think, just anybody can do it. But if you feel like you can run for something, we have school boards that need you. We have elected official positions that need you. People that can help ensure the safety and security of voting, like Miss Shay and Miss Ruby were doing, despite being terrorized for it. We have to be the front against the crafted foot soldiers for fuckery of the GOP. And far too many of you would rather sit back and bitch about not being messaged to. I don't know what louder message you need than I would never, ever want another president like Trump or worse. And they are already trotting out things like Death Santa's 2024. Because to them, they don't care. It's not about our rights and freedoms as U.S. citizens. It's not about honoring our abilities and diversity. It is about dehumanizing people for power with the GOP. And they will trot out anybody that touts that message of, we're going to bring God. Who's God? I don't know what God they're trying to sell you on, but bigotry and hatred, anger and murder is not any deity that I want to worship and not any faith that I want to ascribe to. Telling women that their only lot in life is to get pregnant and push out babies. Motherhood is a beautiful thing, but it should be a choice. Parenthood is a team effort. And far too long, we have allowed this falsehood that one person needs to shoulder the majority of the work, and that's not how it should be. Father's Day, if anything, should have told you that a team effort goes a long way. But in a GOP-led world, no. Women would constantly be at risk. And we need to open up our eyes to just how easy their message of hate seeps into the pores of our country. And we need to detoxify ourselves of ways that we give in to apathy, thus letting them win by slim margins even. Our turnout should be strong in every single election. Our turnout should be strong enough to where they realize we cannot cheat anymore. But they bank on our apathy. They bank on white women like that political gal saying that the messaging isn't strong enough. They bank on people like Molly Palloy giving hit piece articles about how things aren't being catered fast enough. They bank on the far left being loud on social media talking about student loan debt. They want those one-sided issues to keep you home and apathetic so that they can slide in and destroy our democracy. And then what? You can protest? You can take selfies at a protest that didn't need to happen in the first fucking place? Stop giving us self-inflicted issues. I am begging people to be smarter. But I am begging you to do your bare minimum in politics because it all adds up. And we might not get lucky next time with a Miss Shay or Miss Ruby. We definitely won't get lucky next time if somebody GOP takes over here in Michigan. They will roll back and restrict every bit of good. These people don't believe in science. They don't believe in facts. They will spit in the face of anything that even helps them if it dares to help somebody that doesn't look like them. And you want to sit home and let them just take control because you somehow think you're going to be all right? Or even worse yet, you self-hate so much that you think, well, it's what it is. Some of you use hoteps and hoteps especially. I know you think I don't see you with your dusty asses talking about Juneteenth in one breath and talking about reparations in another and how that's going to keep you home. How the fuck you think we're going to get reparations if you don't vote for legislators? How do you think we're going to get anything better if you just sit home with your dusty ass complaining about everything? You contrarians are the fucking worst when it comes to this shit. We could have better if you really wanted better, but you don't because you want to complain and use other fucking worse. Your misogyny is worse. And the fact that you got pick-me girls willing to debase themselves for some dick is the worst too. I'm calling you out because you hold us all back with your non-forward thinking. And then want to act like you're doing something for the community. You're pro-black. Wait. We literally have food desert still. We have to fucking worry about not being able to feed ourselves. But you're pro-black. Telling people not to vote. Standing people like fucking Killer Mike and Ice-T and Ice Cube and other people who don't want to fucking do their bare minimum for our community but profit off of it. I'm fucking sick of not calling yous out. If you are not going to exercise your right, you have no right to exercise your voice telling those of us who do what is and what isn't. I don't want to struggle, but I realize that doing nothing doesn't help the situation. And some of you have been pushing that message far too hard for far too long, and it is dangerous. We cannot afford to play these games. So if that is your call, brother man or sister girl, you're a time waster. And I don't want to hear you complaining when things go bad because they will go bad if you stay home. We need turnout this midterm to show people that we learned our lesson after Trump. To show people that we understand the assignment. Some of you want to play games about messaging and about things not going fast enough. That's not how this world works. The only way to have lasting change and actual progress that isn't just a stunt is to do it incrementally. And I know that some of you have lived a privileged, charmed life because you're still not understanding that. You're still trying to push for rapid fire things. You're still stomping your feet and pouting because not everything was solved within the first year of this administration. You're floating things like a fucking Republican. After the 4 years of hell under Trump, anybody fixing their mouth to float anybody GOP, I don't trust you, ever. After watching today's January 6th hearings, anybody daring to float somebody GOP, I don't trust you ever. You see how they're still trying to obstruct. You see how awful their side is being. Yet you dare try to push one for president in 2024? Anybody following me, amplifying that noise? I don't need you in my circle. We have to be no nonsense about this, y'all. It is exhausting, and I don't want to cut ties with people, but if you're not ready to continue to have competent leadership, whether it's flashy or not, if you're not willing to vote, then you're wasting my time. I'm going to get ready to wrap this up, and honestly, respect it is. I want to thank all of you for sitting in. I am really excited for this week coming up. There's so much on the line. Hopefully, I'll have an announcement about Amazon Kindle soon. Been going back and forth with the customer service for that. But my book is out, y'all. It's called Axiom. It's a science fiction novel, and hopefully people will read and enjoy it. But I'm going to get ready to go, make some dinner, cool down. I want to thank you all for sitting in, and I will definitely be back on Friday, though I might have a special event tomorrow, depending. It just depends on when the expansion drops and if I feel like sitting in front of the computer, because it has been hot as heck here, y'all. And streaming is not easy. I know some people think streaming is easy. Kilky could tell you, a few of us could tell you. When it's hot and it's nasty, you don't want to sit in front of a camera. So it depends on how I feel. There may or may not be an Olive Red playthrough tomorrow. It just depends. There's several other really good DDO streamers that will be doing it anyway. But I definitely want to say how much I appreciate all of you for sitting in chat, listening to me talk about politics and social issues. I will be back on Friday night. And you take care, remember to vote, and that I love you all, for real. Thank you so much for being in chat, and I will see you all soon.